Okay, we're doing 2.3. It's linear equations. This is part 1. And again, this is a lot of review, but that should make it an easy section for y'all. We're going to start with point slope form. And remember from Algebra 1 and 2 that point slope form is y minus y1 equals your slope times x minus x1. And the key features of point slope form are you're given a point that the line goes through. That's x1, y1. And of course your slope, that's why it's called point slope form. And that's m, which is always the number in front of the parentheses. The second form that we have is one that goes all the way back to pre-algebra, and that's slope-intercept form. That's y equals mx plus b. And if I ask for the key features of that, your key features are your slope, because it's slope-intercept form, which is m, and your y-intercept, which is the number that follows m, and we're going to write it as an ordered pair, 0, comma, b, because when it crosses the y-axis, it's at 0, and then it goes up or down, whatever b is. And the third is standard form. And standard form is ax plus by equals c. And key things to remember about it is that there's no fractions in standard form. And your first term is positive. And as I said in the earlier section, remember that it's all your x's and y's on one side and your constants on the other. If we ask for the key features of standard form, your key features are your x and y intercept. And if you'll recall, what we talked about doing is setting up a table. If you plug in 0 for y and solve for x, that'll give you your x-intercept. And if I plug in 0 for x and solve for y, that'll give me my y-intercept. And then I'm also introducing today that you can find the slope from standard form. We haven't really talked about that till now. And that slope is negative a over b. So whatever a is, take the opposite of that and put it over b, and that's your slope. So that's a really easy way to find your slope in standard form. Okay, so remember that when we're asking you to graph these, we will be looking for the key features. So if it's in slope-intercept form, we want the slope and the intercept as the key features. And if it's standard form, we want you to graph it using these key features. And we're going to be looking for those. So don't be relying on outside resources, because they're not going to give you the information that we're asking you for. Okay, given this equation, okay, first thing you need to figure out is what form it's in. And the form here is standard. And we know that because all of my x's and y's are on one side. There's no fractions. Leading term is positive. That's standard. And for graphing purposes, my key features, I'm going to do the table. Remember, I plug in 0 for y to get my x and 0 for x to get my y. When I plug in 0 for y, I get 8x plus 4 times 0 equals 12. The 4 times 0 is 0, so it's not there. So I have 8x equals 12. Divide by 8. And that's going to simplify. 4 goes into both 12 and 8, so that simplifies to 3/2. All right. And then when I plug in 0 for y, or excuse me, 0 for x to get my y-intercept, I have 8 times 0 plus 4y equals 12. 8 times 0 is 0, so 4y equals 12. Divide by 4, and my y equals 3. Okay, so when you look at this, think of that as that's one ordered pair of my x-intercept. And this is the ordered pair for my y-intercept. And our instructions also say to find the slope. So to get my slope, I'm going to take negative a over b. Okay, that was what we learned up here. My a is 8, so the opposite of 8 is negative 8 over my b, which is negative 4. And negative 8 over negative 4 is a positive 2. That's going to be my slope. So to graph this, first I'm going to graph my x-intercept, which is 3/2, which is 1.5, comma 0. And my y-intercept, which is 0, 3, oh, so I did that wrong, didn't I? This isn't a +4. This is a -4. This is a -4. So this is a -3 for my y-intercept. If you were in my room and you caught that, you would have gotten candy. So 0, negative, that looks better. So it didn't look right. And then we connect those points. And remember, my slope is 2, so up 2 and over 1, up 2 and over 1, so that's working. And then that's how I would graph that. Okay, I didn't need my slope to graph it, but it's a good way to check the graph, especially when you have fractions as part of your intercepts. Okay. Next one, we're going to find the equation of a line with slope -3. All right, so I know my slope is -3, and we're going to do this in point slope form. And the reason we're going to do that is I have a point and a slope. So my form that I'm going to use, even though I don't have the equation, the form I'm going to use is point slope. I'm going to have to create the equation. And remember, point slope is y minus y1 equals slope times x minus x1. And this is going to be my x1, y1. And my slope is -3. So I'm going to take that information, I'm going to plug it into my equation. Y minus my y value, y minus 5, equals my slope, which is -3, times x minus my x value. X minus a -2 would be x plus 2. Okay, so that's part one, which is writing the equation of the line. Okay, the second thing is, to give 2 additional points on the line. Okay, let's go ahead and graph it. And if I graph this, I've got -2, 5, -2 and up 5. Let's do it in this color. And then from that point, I'm going down 3 and over 1. I'll go down 3 and over 1 more time just to have a couple of points. I'm going to graph my line. Okay. And it asks for a couple of additional points on the line. Well, I started at -2, 5. When I went down to and over 1 of the points I had was -1, 1. So -1, 1 is at the point. And then I went down to and over 1 again, and I hit my y-intercept, which was 0, -1. Okay, so that would be an additional point. So that's just a way of getting, getting your points answered. Pardon the pun. And that's all we have for this one.